Hey everybody, this is Harvey Sluggo Wasserman back with you with the 211th, I think it is, Green Grassroots Emergency Election Protection Coalition Zoom call. Actually, I think it's 212. How are you, everybody? It's 2 o'clock Pacific time on Monday, President's Day, and we got a president. We're going to be talking about a lot of great stuff. We got, let's see, 43 people to start with us. We're going to start with a poem from our poet laureate, Mimi Gurman, and we're going to talk about saving Social Security, which is a topic on Medicare and Medicaid, which is going to be a biggie to fight with. And then we're going to talk about the attack on the nuclear plant at Chernobyl. And then we want you, everyone, except the moderators, because we are nonprofit, but everybody who wants, we'd like you to nominate someone that you think should start for running for president right now. We think it's a good time maybe to start the campaign for 2028. And as Mark Twain said, if the good Lord had wanted us to have elections, he would have given us candidates. So we need to have candidates out and about now. So if you've got someone you think you want to nominate for president of the United States to run getting towards 2028, please chime in. Also going to talk.
Oh, Sluggo, real quick, we need that disclaimer. We are a nonpartisan, nonprofit coalition. We will not endorse or support any particular candidate or campaign committee.
Right. And I know that Mike had to put that in there. We appreciate it. I personally was about to nominate Donald Trump, but he stopped me. So what can I tell you? We're also going to talk very briefly about a major trade in the National Basketball Association. I know people are not particularly focused on sports here, but this has a really interesting corporate angle, the trade of Luka Doncic to the LA Lakers, something that I hadn't thought of, but it's a big deal, even for those of us, even for those who don't follow sports. I'm a total addict, but what can I tell you? So, and then we're also going to talk about the fact that the Washington Post today turned down an ad calling for the resignation of Elon Musk. Very interesting situation, again, nonpartisan, and we'll talk about that. So we got a great, and then the second hour, Mimi Gurman, our poet laureate, and Mike Hersh are going to lead a discussion on the need for local organizing and community consciousness. Very, very interesting, and we hope you'll all stick with us for that. I see the great Carl Grossman is with us, who I'm sure will have some thoughts about the drone hit on Chernobyl, which when I read the headline, shivers went up my spine, as I'm sure they did for Carl too. So let's rock and roll here. Mimi, if you'll start with your poem, and then we'll get into Social Security and nuclear power.
Okay, I am just pulling it up. Hi, everybody. Carl, I'm glad you're here today, and everyone else as well. Like Harvey said, I'm going to be talking later with Mike about community, and I've been doing a deep dive recently into the women of Rojava, and I started to talk about this last week, and this poem has to do with that, which is why I'm bringing that up. So to just give context, it has to do with that. The revolution will be fought by women. Societies cannot be free if the women cannot be free. YPJ, Women's Protection Unit, Syria. In this revolution, there is blood and the language of ripe peaches. Let us liberate the seed from its fruit, grow an orchard full, an earthly paradise, abundantly sweet in our wild groves of freedom. At the tables in the square, once lined with lemons and oranges, we prepare now to sow our own cosmos, where women give birth to each other, the essence of existence. Oh, mothers of devotion, hands that bear life, wring from the cloth of revolutionaries the breath and blood of your children. There on the front lines, drapes of freedom cling, the color of sudden sun. Pour the blood-stained waters to the eucalyptus tree. Water her roots with nightingales. In each leaf, a heartbeat, stronger than the wind. The air will scent with song. Inside the poem, another poem For the disciple of love, a dead tree never dies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mimi. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. We got 81 people with us, and later in the second hour, you and Mike are going to talk more about. Can you tell us about this community in Syria very quickly, in case people don't know what you were talking about in terms of that group?
Yeah, what I'm speaking about specifically is called the YPJ, and it's in northern Syria, and it's a group of, it's basically a guerrilla militia that has fought ISIS since 2005, if not before that. And they fight a lot. It's all women, and they are self-taught, and they have taught other soldiers how to fight back ISIS. And they've been incredibly successful with no government support because the government has been Assad, and Assad is a fascist, and Assad is no longer there. But the nutshell of all of this is that women have been fighting for the freedom of women, for the end of patriarchy, and creating a new society, a society based on the teachings of a leader who also believes in taking down the patriarchy so that women can be free. And in northern Syria, these women have done an incredible job building community. And that's something that Mike and I want to bring forward and talk with you all about, and hope to spread this in communities around America.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I want to mention we're joined by Ken Gale. Ken is going to actually slip in. I hope, Ken, you'll do this and talk to us about Eco Radio and Eco Logic. You're on WBAI Pacifica in New York, and we're trying to build an eco-based radio network, which will interface with Pacifica. So, Ken, if you can, when we get through the first hour here, we'll have you on, please, to talk about building the Eco Broadcast Network. Okay, thank you so much. Mike, you now have brought us, we want to talk about Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, how to protect it. Ken, we will unmute you when the time comes. I'm going to mute you now, actually. You can say hi. But Mike Hersh, do you want to introduce our guest and open up the discussion on protecting the three biggies, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid?
Absolutely. I'm so glad that Professor Eric Kingston can join us today. He's a terrific teacher, leader, and organizer. He ran for Congress, unfortunately did not win. We would have been all a lot better off had he won. And he co-founded a great organization called Social Security Works, another nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that not only advocates for the protection and improvement of Social Security, but Social Security Works also joins with a lot of great organizations and coalitions advancing all kinds of great, wonderful policies to make our society better. So I don't want to take up too much time when Professor Kingston has so much to say and so much to share with us. So please join me in welcoming the wonderful Professor Eric Kingston.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Great to have you with us, Eric. We appreciate it.
Well, I'm not sure it'll be as beautiful as the poetry we just heard, but I will do my best to make a few points on Social Security. I'm going to start with something I think is very important. It doesn't have to do with the policy directly, but it's indirectly. Firstly, at this time, when we're pulling ourselves apart in all sorts of ways as a nation, one of the few things Americans agree on across the political spectrum is they don't want their Social Security cut. They're willing to pay more if needed, and they want to see some judicious expansion. Recent survey gives us that number, 92%, roughly across those groups. This is a bipartisan value. And the other piece I'll start with is, I don't think this will surprise anyone on this call, but Trump is no friend of Social Securities. I know you're shocked. He's no friend of a lot. And guess what? Neither is Musk. But behind all the baloney of Trump is a desire to destroy the system. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, core services that protect Americans and that we all benefit from in a variety of ways. This attack is part of a long history of attacking Social Security, Medicare, that we've seen over and over again. This one, I believe, is both the most dishonest and the most worrisome. I've spent 40, 50 years working on the Social Security issues, retirement policy. For years, I've said I'm not worried about the system. I can't say that anymore. For years, I've said, and this I believe, we can fund modest expansions and all the funds needed for Social Security. It's simply a matter of values and politics, not economics. And we can do that, but these folks don't want to do it, and that's very worrisome. The House Budget Reconciliation is calling for extraordinary cuts, not directly in Social Security at this point, but indirectly. Just start with Social Security. In Medicare, what they've essentially done is put together an outline that says as Ways and Means needs to give orders to the various committees to cut benefits by $4,500,000. Education and workplace by, there are cuts in there for food stamps as well. There are cuts in there, as you know, huge cuts for Medicaid, arguably almost dismantling the system. They're talking about things that they're going to put in will be very problematic, such as work requirements in Medicaid, changing the percentage that the federal government pays for the state Medicaid programs. Basically, bit by bit, they want to pull it apart. I'm sure they'll be talking about moving it from a federal program to a block grant approach. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, we
Okay,
can. We're good. We're good.
You just came back out. So there's a lot in Medicaid. There's a lot in Medicare. Let me just say something about Social Security first. One way to kill a program is to completely undermine its administration. Mr. Trump says he's not going to cut Social Security, but we know that's baloney. Even the last time, he tried doing a real job on the disability program and was no friend of the programs. This time, we're looking at the kinds of cuts that are being put through in terms of staffing. Social Security has 41,000 employees. That's about 19,000 less than they had 25 years ago. We have many more older people. We have expectations, or we've been hearing from the so-called DOGE committee, that, well, one thing they've done is eliminate employees who are on 1 or 2 year probations. Those are new employees who are being trained and are working at SSA. They've talked about not allowing telehealth, not allowing workers to work from home. They want them in the office. Concurrently, they also want to cut out a lot of the offices. They're exploring offices for which SSA has leases with landlords. They want to get rid of as much of that as possible. So they want people to come into the office, but they're going to have less and less space for people. And the pieces that are going to be cut are particularly, the access that will be cut will be particularly in lower income populations and many persons of color and many white folks who aren't very well off either. The DOGE effectively, if it went into effect, would destroy the administration. For years, Social Security has been a crown jewel for many of us. Roosevelt put the payroll contribution into it, saying, I'm doing that because I don't want anyone no damn politician can take away my Social Security. We're now looking at it as a possibility, of nibbling it to death. The lies are extraordinary. Social Security does not contribute a single penny to the federal deficit. The money that comes out of Social Security is all paid in by us over our lifetimes and by other people. The proposed changes in administration, that's what I bring, the hiring of Social Security at other agencies will be allowed to replace one person for every 4 people that are cut, perhaps. There'll be many, we can expect that many Social Security employees will leave. Some can't go from telecommunication to the offices. Some are ready to retire, and this might be a gosh darn good time to retire from their point of view. The workforce is so well trained, and I go back to when I early got into this. Bob Ball was the commissioner from 1962 to 74. He was fired by Richard Nixon when he wouldn't put in Richard Nixon's name when the cost of living adjustments went out. Ball was he was a giant. One of the things he did is focus on public presence, public administration to the public. Social Security is a place where the rubber meets the road, and the government you see is how you're treated by Social Security, also the IRS. But Social Security workers are very well trained. Ball had worked on that grouping of SSA folks, put a lot of time into educating the workforce and developing a set of consumer-friendly attitudes and approaches. DOGE has access to all of our Social Security records, it would seem, our tax records. This is beyond normality. I think the piece I would say most importantly is we are at such a turning point that if we all don't get out and work hard, we're going to lose the basis of our government and the basis of these protections. I view this as certainly problematic to older people, but even more so to our children and grandchildren. Middle-aged workers, young workers, and children are the ones who are really going to lose by the kinds of massive cuts they're going to put into Social Security if they can. And I actually think we're going to stop. But if they can, they would be massive, and especially for younger populations. What we have today is a retirement income crisis where 2/3 of Americans are not able to maintain their standard of living, even with their Social Security pension, any earnings they have. This is unable to maintain their standard of living in retirement at age 67, say, including their Social Security, their pensions, and all the equity from their homes, if they have equity. 2/3 will be unable to maintain that standard of living. The projections. That's the crisis. It's not financing. But right now, the bigger crisis, quite honestly, is the attempt to destroy all government, to undermine Medicaid, a program that's hugely important for children, but especially important too for older people with significant disabilities who need assistance at home or need assistance in nursing, in assisted living or nursing facility. This is heartless stuff. There's nothing nice about this. And there's nothing that's just like, basically they want to cut something like 4.6 trillion or actually more trillions of dollars out of services for the old, for children and education, for the public in terms of public health, destroy our public health system. And that's all in service to continuing the large tax cuts they enacted when Trump was in the first time, and then expanding them. So what we're doing is robbing people, especially middle and low income people, from lots of money to give them to millionaires who are billionaires, who already have a huge amount of tax benefits coming through.
Okay. Let me ask you a couple questions real
Sure.
quick. First of all, the DOGE, D-O-G-E, which I refer to, by the way, as the Department of Gender Equality. I'm not sure. I think that we should all adopt that. We do have with us 115 people, Eric, so you're speaking, and it's Kingston, right?
Actually, it's KINGSON, but everyone
Kingston. Okay, as long, well, I got that clear. When you say that DOGE is getting access to our Social Security data, does this mean it's going to a private organization? In other words, does Elon Musk, as head of DOGE, have access to our Social Security data as a private individual?
Well, this should make you feel more comfortable. Yes, Elon Musk has access to that data.
So they have, because when Social Security was passed, there was an assurance from Roosevelt, from the New Deal, that Social Security data would remain private and unused in official government transactions.
It has never been available the way it is to a private organization, or generally even among the government. It's never been this available, and it's dangerous. Same with our IRS data.
So they have basically privatized the data from Social Security and the IRS.
Well, they have private access to it. The data, one could argue, is not necessarily private, but it's private in terms of confidentiality. But I don't know, I would call it privatized, but Look, they want to privatize everything they can see. If it's funded to help people, privatize it, cut it, and blame Mr. Biden for having screwed things up. And which I'm not blaming it, but I'm saying that it's they don't care. I guess I started to say early on, I left it, is there have been attacks on Social Security throughout the history of the program, beginning with the 1936, the presidential candidate, then Alf Landon, called Social Security a fraud on the working, going up to all sorts of things, proposals to set up a commission that would have legislative authority as a way of taking the program out of normal legislative process. This has been going on forever, but this one change is the most dangerous. The changes that are being put forward are the most dangerous we've ever had. Medicare is probably on the plate for privatizing. They could privatize it a number of ways. They could have a voucher program. We're going to get rid of the regular old Medicare Part A. We're going to let people have some money, a voucher, and they can go out and buy the best insurance they can find. That's both a cap and a cut. Medicaid, the same goal. There's no respect for the kinds of protections these programs provide or for what the public wants. And
then the question becomes, so what you're telling me is that Elon Musk, if he had some little project he wanted to do with Twitter, and he could take the private the data that he got from Social Security and Medicare and use it for his economic gain. Is that correct?
Well, he's a very honest person, and you can't imagine him ever doing something like that. But if he were so inclined, he has access to that at this point.
Unbelievable. So basically, they privatize. We all know the financial value of data in this information-based economy. So he's basically inheriting trillions of dollars of assets here with access to this private data.
Well, remember, they're not copying the data; they're just looking at it.
Okay, so the second question is:
you believe that? You believe in the tooth fairy too?
Well, I actually do believe in the tooth fairy, but nonetheless,
okay,
having no teeth left. But the second question becomes, and then we'll go to other questions. What is the philosophical justification or the economic justification that they are using for these attacks?
Oh, it used to be we can't afford it. It used to be, oh, it's a wonderful program. We love it, but we have to make some modest changes. Those modest changes were things like raising the age of eligibility for benefits, which is a 7% cut for each year you raise it, changing the benefit formula so young people get. That's the old story. Right now, this is their head-on attack on the program. And one way to harm it deeply is to not fund Social Security employees, because the waiting times now are about an hour to get Social Security by telephone. And we're looking at the changes they're proposing. It'll probably go up to 2 hours. Social Security is funded by money we pay into the Social Security system through our payroll contributions. If I asked you how much you think Social Security expends on administration, I do this with my students, 10, 15, 30%. It's less than 1%. It's a 0.5% today. It has declined so much. It's critical that that service be expanded. But if you want to kill the programs, mess up the service that the American people get. If you want to build cynicism and argue for moving the country in remarkably problematic ways. But here's the one thing I want to, one thing before I end, and I'll go on forever. We can change this. The way you fight cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid is to take it out to the people outside of Washington. We need to organize. We need to get the voices of people into Washington, absolutely outraged about this, because this is an outraging attack. If we only focus on Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, what's going on is outraging all the time. One of the best issues those of us who want to build a movement to make change is to focus on but is to really bring out the frustration, the anger of people who are outside of Washington, folks, be they Democrats, Republicans. I happen to be a Bernie Sanders fan, but whoever they are,
I thought
They
you were
don't
Bernie
want to cut.
Sanders from you just look just like Bernie. I thought you were him for a minute.
I was
Anyway,
on. Bernie came
so
up when I ran for Congress. Bernie came up and did a special event for me.
you were twins separated at birth. So, but are you saying that what do the polls show among the MAGA constituency in terms of support for Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security?
That the data I'm familiar with is broken down not by MAGA, but by Republican, Democrat, Independent, also by conservative, liberal. It's showing overwhelming support in all of those groups for not cutting it, for expending more money, even if it means a slight payroll tax contribution, but of course, expecting billionaires to make real contributions to the system, and for modest changes in benefits, such as guaranteeing the cost of living adjustment so that older people and people with disabilities have basically so it keeps up with the standard of living as people age.
Right. Well, one of my favorite stories, and then we'll go to Carla Sand and by the way, we have 127 people. A lot of you are new, and I would love to be able to introduce you or say hello personally, but welcome to the GREEP calls. We're very glad to have you with us. One of my favorite calls was the Ayn Rand, A.Y.N. Rand, the horrible right-wing novelist who wrote Atlas Shrugged, was a huge opponent of Social Security and Medicare in the 60s. She just was relentlessly attacking them. And then she signed up.
Mhm.
And she got both Medicare and Social Security, Ayn Rand. Thank you very much.
Yes.
It was
But
wonderful. I wonder, do you think that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos have signed up for Medicare and Social Security?
let me say something. Dwight D. Eisenhower, president in the 1950s
Right.
to early 1960, Eisenhower, who was not a liberal, he did some good things, but he certainly was not a liberal. He was a moderate conservative,
Right.
conservative on civil rights, whole bunch of things. Yet he wrote a letter to one of his brothers saying something like, if there's a politician who wants to cut Social Security, labor protections, farm benefits, etc., you would not hear from that political character or his or her party forever. Then he goes,
Right.
of course, there's a few people like H.L. Hunt, who's equivalent to,
Right.
there are a few people like H.L. Hunt who would like to would like to eliminate the programs, but they are very few and they are stupid.
Well, Eisenhower actually really protected all the New Deal programs
He
when he
did.
was president.
Well, Arthur Fleming was right there with him.
Right. It wasn't until Ronald Reagan came along that anybody assaulted them. But now we have this. So, Eric Kingston, it's great to have you with us. Let's go
Great to
to
be here. Thank you for having me.
Carla Sand and then Margaret Villani, please. Carla, you're in
Okay.
Minnesota, I believe, right?
Okay, this is Carla over here in Minnesota. And I just first of all want to say that I'm age 86 and I've been on Social Security a long time. And I've been not so long on Medicare, so I'm very familiar with it. And I'm also very familiar with Medicaid, which has had many names over the years. But one of my question has to do with Medicaid when you said that they're thinking about adding the work requirement. Now, I think I remember back with Clinton and maybe even Wellstone, they had the same idea. And when I worked with the state of Minnesota, we used to get employees come in and work part-time who are on Medicaid to meet their work requirements. Whatever happened to that program? Did they find out that it doesn't work or what happened? Do you remember?
I'm not familiar with that.
I want to say thank you. Just a second. I want to say thank you to Social Security Works first, because one of your staff people did come and speak to the PDA disability team, and we thank you. We appreciate it very much, and I think he's coming again.
We appreciate that you're interested in gaining information and building momentum to protect these cuts. And I keep saying, not just for ourselves, those of us who are, say, over 70, but especially for our grandkids and children who are younger, because they really are in trouble in this world.
Yeah.
And need these services, and the cuts will fall on them most heavily.
Well, let me just say, when I was younger, my parents, who were healthy all their lives, in their last year of life, they both died at age 76. They ran up about $1 million worth of medical bills, and if it hadn't been for Medicare, and I wasn't even on Medicare, but if it hadn't been for Medicare, I could never have owned a home or put my kids through college if I had to pay my parents' medical bills. I think people miss that. There's a generational merging there of the benefit of Medicare that's absolutely essential. Thank you for that. Margaretville, and I assume it's about 100 below in Minnesota, so stay warm, please.
Pretty cold in
Margaret,
Syracuse, too.
yeah, right. Margaret Villani, please. Margaret.
Have this White House paper here on Doge, and it says that the purpose is to modernize federal technology and software to maximize government efficiency and productivity. Doesn't say anything about cutting actual programs. And then it talks about the teams, what a team is composed of. One lead, every agency has to have one Doge team lead, one engineer, one human resources specialist, and one attorney. There's no IT specialist, information specialist included in this, and there's no auditor included in this. So that kind of, raises red flags if they're going to try to redo the entire information system and they don't have an information specialist on the team. Also, as far as Medicare privatization, it's almost complete when you consider the Medicare Shared Savings Program and ACO REACH. And I'm concerned because I can't figure out which ACO REACHs are headed by private equity firms and a Medicare Advantage company. How do you figure that out?
Eric, do you want to comment on that?
Would you define ACL REACH?
It's really, was it accountable care organizations for the realization of equity? Oh, they're going to have to change.
Yeah, accountable care organization. Yeah, they will change all of this. Look, when they talk about efficiency, that's not the goal. Here, that they want to take money out of your pocket and our families' pockets and our kids to put it in the pockets of billionaires. I guess that it's really that clear today, sadly. And there's a disrespect for truth, which is rampant. Some of us grew up in a time when we thought you do the right thing. Well, these guys, I guess Musk may have grown up. No, boy, Trump, same age as me. He didn't quite get the message of helping others.
No, that seems a biological shortcoming. Ellen from Save Social Security and Medicare Now, and then we'll go to Mr. Copland, I think. We have
Sluggo Daniela's been waiting for quite a while, and she's going to flip her lid if she doesn't share her wisdom with us soon.
Well, I had Ellen first, and then Daniela. Go ahead. Ellen, Daniela, and then Robert, please.
Hi. My name's Ellen Gottlieb, and I'm the outreach director with Save Social Security and Medicare Now. We're a federal super PAC. We're in Florida. We're organizing events all over the place, raising funds for digital ads. We're doing all the stuff on the ground that nobody else is doing. We're a team of seasoned campaign staffers that know each other from multiple presidential and senatorial campaigns. So check out, I posted the website, Save Social Security and Medicare Now.com, our website. We are moving over to Wix, but you can reach us there. Our phone number, our email address, everything. And we'll be posting our events soon, but we have several events this week. So, and moving forward on the ground in Florida. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you for that. Post everything there. I like how you describe yourself as seasoned. I went to the aquarium in Monterey, California, and tried to get a senior discount, and they referred to me as experienced. So seasoned is good. Daniela, please go ahead.
Yes, I've been an activist for 60 years since I integrated Selma Television. I'm a Bernie-crat. I meet with the progressive Democrats. I belong to many environmental organizations. I've written 20 books on social justice. I'm telling you this because I really want to have ethos for what I'm about to say, which is extremely urgent, even beyond the horrors of what might happen to Social Security and Medicare. Imagine If Musk has all personal data of every Republican, Democrat, even Trump, even Vance, and he's a pal of Putin, he can give all of that personal data to Putin, whom he's been meeting with and talking with. He talks with all the Nazis in Europe. He's mixed up with his two pals, Peter Thiel, a fascist who's been promoting fascism all over the world, and of course, David Sachs, who wants to base the American dollar on Bitcoin and crash the world economy. So we're in a big fix here. I've been calling senators all morning to warn them that with personal data in the hands of Elon Musk, he can give it to Putin and his other oligarch Nazis. Remember, Putin and Trump's father were literal Nazis, literal Nazis. They have no conscience. And one of the things they want to do is kill a huge amount of people because nobody's talking about not only the climate crisis, which I'm very aware of. I speak on it all the time as a trained leader by Al Gore, but I also am aware that the population bomb is destroying the earth. So you're not facing the fact that they really want a lot of us to die and leave just the white supremacists alive. This is not pie in the sky or craziness I'm talking about. This is a very urgent matter that I'm warning you about. I have a high IQ. I've written 20 books on social justice. I've been an activist for 60 years. This is a real threat, even beyond the horrors of what they'll do to our Social Security. Imagine Musk with everything that he can give to Putin and the rest of the dictators around the world. I'm scared to death for my children.
Couple of
Thank
things.
you for that,
Thank
Daniela.
you.
Thank you for your years of activism. We appreciate it. Robert,
Can I just comment on that for one quick second?
yeah,
here?
please go ahead.
That a friend of mine said the other day, and I'm Jewish, she's Jewish. It was just kind of a discussion. We kind of are in the place that the white Christians were in 1933 in Germany. We don't want to see what happened there, but it's a very dangerous place that you're giving expression to. And I can't disagree with you. I think it's very dangerous, and I don't think they particularly care if low-income people, if people who are other than, at this point, white Christians die. I hate to say it that way, and I don't want white Christians to die. It's the Christian nationalism has been working for 40, 50 years to build up this movement of theirs, and now they've got a good hold on it, especially with Trump.
Robert Copland. Robert, please.
Hello, I'm talking about SSI. Did you know a person on SSI in California only gets about 94% of the federal poverty level? And we were the last state to get SNAP benefits for people on SSI. I'm part of a coalition called Save for SSI Coalition. We're trying to improve that.
Thank you. Thank you for that,
Fighting.
Robert.
SSI is the means-tested program, public assistance, welfare-based, and it's usually important. Thank you for fighting.
Thank you for that, Robert Copland. We appreciate it. Kevin Eisenstein, I want to try and get you unmuted, and then Donald Smith and Mickey Leader. Kevin, go ahead.
It's Eisenstat, and I just turned 65 last week, and I had thought about delaying Social Security for 23 months until I hit 67 to get the full payout. If you take the early payout, it's about a 30% haircut. But with all this discussion about Trump and his administration for the next 4 years, now I'm starting to feel concerned about whether it actually makes sense to delay 23, 24 months. Obviously, I don't know how long I'm going to live, but what we're seeing is that the Trump administration and Musk want to cripple working class people that actually depend on Social Security. And I wonder if Mr. Kingson has any thoughts on my concern about delaying versus taking it now, because clearly
That's a good, interesting.
we're not going to get a cap that's eliminated. ever, or at least unless we find another Bernie Sanders
And
candidate.
we have a note in the chat from Annalise, who's also about to turn 65. This is not just a litany of the horrors. We're trying to, as Eric has said, we're trying to inform people so that we can all take action. So, Eric, go ahead.
Let me just say, that's a very personal decision. So what I'm going to say, you can tie into. Firstly, even though I'm very nervous about where things are going in Social Security, I'm not so much nervous for our age group. That's sad. It's absolutely sad, but they're not going to be able to pull things away. Now, your decisions.
Well, wait, that's a big statement. Are you saying that you think that Social Security for current beneficiaries is defensible?
I think if we fight hard, it's very defensible. I doubt that they're going to want to go into that buzzsaw. The thing, just to go to your early retirement piece, you're correct. If you take your benefit at 62, it's 70% of the full benefit. If you wait until age 70, it's 130% of 124% of the full benefit. That's a choice. I personally think if you can afford it, it's a good idea to wait. But you have to put in an assessment of where the system is. And what really stinks, part of Social Security is to give people a sense of security. And whatever happens, they're stripping that sense of security from the American public. Another level of uncertainty moves in there.
Wow. Annalise, I hope that helps with you as well. I had the same choice. I didn't wait till I was 70. I think I waited till 67. But now I'm 80. I probably would have been better to get it. Anyway, thank you for that advice. And again, we want to emphasize this is not just moaning and groaning here. People need to organize and protect these programs. I'm especially concerned about Medicare because medical costs are so high that, if you don't have Medicare and you have a major medical problem, I have the Part B also, by the way. I've had 2 hips, 2 knees, a heart, an eye thing, all this stuff, and I wouldn't have any money at all if I had to pay.
Trump could save a lot of money by putting you out of commission.
Well, don't give me any ideas, please.
Okay.
But thank you, Eric, for that. Okay, Donald Smith and then Mickey Leader. Donald, go ahead.
Yeah, Sluggo, I would not have guessed that you're 80. You look much
Well,
younger.
I get confused because it's also my IQ, so I get the two mixed up. But go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just saying that there needs to be, okay, if there's going to be a movement to push back against all the MAGA and Musk and Doge craziness, there needs to be a big. I mean, why aren't the Democrats doing this? There is no very little Democratic pushback from it. A centralized place where people go and say, "Hey, Americans, they're going to destroy Medicare, Social Security, etc., Medicaid, everything." That's my point. That we.
Well, let's ask Eric that. What are the Democrats actually doing? Thank you, Donald. Good question.
First, I'd say it's probably a better question for you, but I'm going to answer it. I think it's a very important question. There are groups like Progressive Democrats of America that are working very hard to organize people nationally and help support local groups that come together to work on these issues. It's not just about Social Security. It certainly is about Medicare, especially, and Medicaid. It's also about Social Security. But fundamentally, it's pulling apart. It's about stopping the pulling apart of our society and the decency of our society, which is being being ripped away.
Yes, that's a good point about that. I just put out a piece, which we linked to you, everybody, on questioning whatever happened to Kamala Harris. She ran for president, she disappeared. And one thing we've learned over the decades is we cannot count on the Democratic Party or many of the Democratic politicians when push comes to shove. We'll see if Medicare and Social Security don't get them going, then I don't know what will. Thank you for that, Mickey Leader, and then we'll go back to Ellen. Anybody else? We're gonna and then Tatanka. We're gonna move on from this in a minute. Eric, you've been a great presenter, and we have 130 people.
Trying my best.
So we're glad to have you, Mickey Leader. Then we'll go back to Ellen, and then Tatanka.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I wanted to make 2 comments. One is Social Security and Medicaid take care of so many people with disabilities, so many people who are elderly. It will affect everyone if you cannot get caregivers to take care of the elderly. If you're going to take everything away and nursing homes won't be able to keep any of the elderly or very, very sick people, it will be a disaster. But that makes about as much sense, really, as throwing out every person who came here who will pick our vegetables and fruits in the field. But the worst makes no sense. And since I've been asking everyone, nobody can give me an answer. If we know that the white conservative crazies are afraid because they are no longer, white people are no more in the top of the population, they're under 50%, and they're losing population because, like most of us, I'm 78, our children either didn't get married or waited to have children till very late and had one or two maximum. So if that population happened in Europe too, is by just not replacing each of them with 1.2 children, where is the idea here that makes, and they don't want Black, Hispanic, and other races from all over the world to live here, and they don't want them to have children. Okay, so why did they stop allowing them to have abortions? And why, in heaven's name, didn't they just figure it out because they're too stupid? Give families who want children in low birth rate, census, money for children. Give them the benefits of child care and free medical care, etc., and food stamps so that they can be fed. I don't know who they think, how smart they were with this, but early on, I saw lots of texts coming through during COVID that they didn't care how many people died because, that's a risk, a rationale, and we'll get rid of all these people who were on Medicare, Social Security, and insurance, and we'll get rid of them. Oh my good God! I don't know which idiot
It doesn't.
Explain
Well, you're presuming rationality, Mickey. I don't think any of this makes any sense, frankly.
No,
historically, by the way, there is one thing and one thing only that drops the birth rate, and that is the empowerment of women. And in places where women are empowered, the birth rate goes down, even in Catholic countries. So it's a very interesting statistic, but nothing else makes sense as far as I can see.
Respond as a Social Security maven.
Yeah, then we'll go to Ellen and Tatanka.
Okay. I thought you were going into the issue also of the dependency ratio in Social Security. How are we going to be able to support a large group of older people? The reality is there's so many ways to do it. We're the richest nation in the world at the richest time in the world's history. There are many ways to approach that. The increase in Social Security in the future is far less than the percent increase in the number of people. This is about, they can talk about efficiency, they can talk about rational approaches. They're about cutting this back the same way Alf Landon, same way people have fought this system in time. They don't believe in government, and they don't believe in programs that help people for the most part.
And God knows why, literally. Thank you, Ellen, and then Tatanka, and then Daniela.
Yeah. Honestly, if anyone wants to do something in their community, I understand not everybody's happy with the Democratic Party, but they do have the ability to reach a lot of people. And whatever county you're in, state you're in, if you want help, you can ask them to help you put together an event where you can do a phone bank. We'll help you. We will help you. We will help you do rallies. We'll help you do whatever you want to do. But mobilizing people, I think Lincoln was right about public sentiment. Without public sentiment behind you, you can do nothing. And with it, you can do everything. So getting that public sentiment and reaching out to other people in your community, whether it's friends, family, through your social contacts, groups, clubs, religious institutions, political organizations, and getting those people out in front of cameras, out in the street, making phone calls to your representatives, really mobilizing people is really the way to stop this. This is what stopped ending the Affordable Care Act. We'll just have to do it again. We just have to do it again. So you have my phone number in the chat, website, email address. Reach out to me. We've done this before. We can do it again.
Well, I'm getting all these notes in the chat about rallies, Columbus, Ohio, New York, the Bay Area. So there are rallies going on all over the place. It's a good sign. Thank you for that, Daniela. Tatanka, do you want to jump in here, Tatanka?
Yeah, well, one of the many reasons why my choice for somebody to step into the presidency right now would be Jamie Raskin. Among other things, talking about the rule of law, he reminds us that progressives and their attorneys and liberals and others, but mainly headed by the progressives, have so many lawsuits going, and they're winning virtually all of them. But of course, they need time because Trump and his minions, they outrun the law, et cetera. So he's really stressing the grassroots organizing and getting people up into Congress to really let these, organizing to support the legislators that are doing the defense of the rule of law as part of the overall strategy. So we need a huge movement working on this. I also want to thank Daniela for straight talk because I believe that's what's happening. Thank you.
Well, listen, we're going to go to Danielle, then we're going to move on. This has been almost an hour. We have this call people grow as we go along. We have 131 people. But Daniela, then Eric will give you a last word. But this has been a phenomenal discussion, and we will return to this topic.
I want to say that I'm not disagreeing with what the last two speakers said. All of that is important. But I think I want to be positive and proactive now. And I want to tell you what I think is the most important thing we can do in this urgency. The Republicans have to realize that their information will also be compromised, that they can also be held hostage by Musk and his pal Putin. So the most important thing we can do, if we're articulate and up to it, is to call Republican leaders like Senator Thune, leader of the Senate. He was not the one Trump wanted because he's a bit more independent than the other senators. And McConnell, who's turned now and started voting against Trump because he's near death. And then we have other important senators to call. Even J.D. Vance, we should say, do you really want Putin to have all your information? And we need to call Republican senators and warn them that they can also be held hostage and blackmailed with their personal data by both Musk and Putin, and that they will have no jobs anymore when this becomes a total fascist oligarchy or kingdom. They won't even have their jobs and their pensions and their Medicare in the Senate or the House if our government is destroyed, because we're really on the brink of not maybe being able to have any midterms. So I really want to, and you can easily find those numbers. They're all online, of Senator Thune, Senator McConnell, Senator Collins, Senator McCoskey. Get all the Republican senators, Senator Rubin, who has a little bit more sense, Rubio has a little bit more sense, Thune has a little bit more sense than the rest of the hostage Republicans. Because
Daniela, Rubio is no longer a senator. He's now the Secretary of State.
I know that. Believe me, I know it.
Okay.
Okay, that's my suggestion. Very important to do it. I've been doing it.
Mike and thank you, Daniela. Thank you very much. Mike and Mimi are going to talk about local organizing now. We're almost to the end of the hour. John Seeley, and then we're going to move ahead. This is really phenomenal discussion. You'll have to come back, Eric. Go ahead, John Seeley, and then we're going to move ahead.
Well, I wanted to speak about what are the practicalities of organizing in the community now. Yesterday, we had some discussion of a couple of things like Section 8 tenants being threatened by Musk. We also had mention of the American Federation of Government Employees and their role in putting together these rallies who represent, all kinds of federal workers. So are you folks coordinating with the AFGE? And also, do you have any thoughts about how one might identify Medicaid and recipients, which would be difficult because of HIPAA, and also about Section 8 recipients? who ought to be more accessible. Can state governments, blue state governments help us ID buildings in the neighborhoods where there's Section 8 recipients?
Go ahead, Eric. That's an organizing question, and then we're going to move ahead, and then we'll get back to mainstream organizing. But go ahead.
I think I actually started writing something but I think that the local organizing is going to be the most important thing we can do. Someone mentioned going to Washington. Going to Washington is great, but going to the offices or the town hall meetings of members of Congress is important. I caution myself two things. We need a positive message, and one of the people touched on it. We need health care for our kids and family. We need family leave care, a variety of things. We're not going to get that this week, but we still need to build on a message that the American people want. We have to fight and block, but also build something. And the way to do it, I believe, there are many ways. We're all doing it on this message, on this call video. Really involves working at the grassroots, talking with your friends, even the ones we disagree with, but they're still friends, talking with people, and kind of trying to tell myself, don't be too self-righteous. Don't beat up on ourselves, because the Democrats have screwed up all sorts of ways, and I could tell you that, but it's the best we got for now, and we got to make it better. And I say that as an early civil rights and anti-war activist. I'm surprised today. I'm so focused on maintaining our government.
Okay, thank you for that, Eric. We'll give Rhonda a last shot here. Rhonda, you're in Florida, and then we're going to talk about this nuclear hit, and then you're all going to get to nominate your own candidates for president. So go ahead, Rhonda Roth, and I'm going to nominate LeBron James, by the way, but that's another story. So go ahead, Rhonda, please.
Thanks, Harvey. I actually have to get on another call, a climate call, but I wondered if any of you activists, like really well-seasoned activists, ever saw a reverse psychology campaign work. And what I'm thinking of, and please don't see me as a total fruitcake on this, but most of my work is environmental, and simmering below the surface in most of what we do is the issue of population. So if we take a lot of the speakers today and synthesize some of their population comments, just imagine that we created a campaign saying, yay, Trump, he's going to finally lower the global population. Well, that'd be wonderful. And then put I know this sounds crazy, but I was wondering if a reverse psychology campaign has ever in the past worked. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do, but I don't know. I mean, I have 5 daughters, so I'm I don't know.
You can't be part of this.
But
you can't be part of this.
As
campaign.
I say, and I will say this again, the one thing that throughout history that has most reliably put a bit damper on population growth is women's power. You know, people, when women take power, population drops, and that's the way it is. I'm not going to make any comments beyond that, but it is a demographic reality. So listen, Rhonda, I know Rhonda from Florida. She does great environmental work. Eric, it's been great to have you with us. You will come back. It's been a phenomenal discussion.
Be my honor.
About Social Security. And so we still have, after a full hour, 122 people with us. This is the call with the longest attention span in America. So we're going to move to another couple of issues, and then we're going to go to grassroots organizing. You guys, please, everybody, you can make your nominations for president. The next issue we were going to deal with, and I don't know if Rich Gale is still with us, but Ken Gale, rather. Mike Hersh, go ahead, and then we're going to jump in and talk about this nuclear hit in Chernobyl briefly, and then we're going to take your nominees for president.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you again, Eric. You did an absolutely amazing job. So glad you were able to join us. This is life and death for millions of us, tens of millions of us now, and all of us at some point in our lives. We all have either we're knocking on the door of retirement, in retirement, or we have parents in retirement. And then there are massive numbers of people who want to work, but because of physical challenges are unable to work. And we have a very ruthless, heartless regime that's taking form now, right before our eyes. It's telling people, oh, you're on Medicaid or Medicare, you're going to have a work requirement. This is heartless and cruel. You know, it staggers the imagination. And thank you so much for bringing perspective and your knowledge and your wisdom, and also offering us some solutions and things we can do. So I deeply appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
May I just
Okay,
say
now,
one thing? Can I backtrack?
go ahead, Eric.
one
Yes,
thing?
please.
Social Security is at risk for older people, but it has more to do with the access. It could be cut in all sorts of ways, and they would like to do it. But I think what I'm trying to say is it's very important to focus on that, but also the healthcare pieces, because those are going to be the most immediate.
Yes, and those are really dangerous, having run up some serious medical bills in the last 15 years on Medicare, and having seen my parents go, it's a very, very dicey situation. Let me thank you again, Eric. We'll have you back, and also all you people that made great comments. I do want to jump in real quickly. I did put out a piece which was linked to you today about what happened on the election in terms of protecting the vote. I took serious issue with four Democrats, Al Gore, John Kerry, Hillary Clinton, and most lately, also Barack Obama for not paying attention in 2010, and then the most recent candidate. I mean, we do have issues with protecting the right to vote and to have those votes counted. It has to be dealt with. Kamala Harris as well just disappeared the day after the election. I'm very, very deeply disturbed with the lack of action from the Democratic Party in protecting people's right to vote. We did have Greg Palast on, who is the definitive authority on disenfranchisement, both in 2000 and in 24 years later. Same old stuff. So please, people, if you want to look at the link to my piece, which is at freepress.org, please do. Also, I put up a piece a few days ago on the drone hit at Chernobyl. And when I saw that a military drone, had hit the sarcophagus at Chernobyl, I was petrified. I was at a conference in Kiev, or now Kyiv, in 1996, the 10th year. There it is. I mean, really, there's actual footage of the drone hitting the sarcophagus. Now, my immediate assumption was that the Russians had done it. And that was not, I put out a piece basically saying that this proves once again that nuclear power is not sustainable, can't be protected. The drone was a serious explosive drone. It did blow a hole in the sarcophagus. This is a $2 billion roof they put over Chernobyl Unit 4 to protect radiation releases, to stop radiation releases. This drone did poke a hole in the thing. Now, my initial, matter of fact, response was just to assume that the Russians had done it, but that was not the point. The point was that basically this shows once again how dangerous atomic power is and why it's completely unsustainable. But, the law of unintended consequences, I got all sorts of feedback. Why am I blaming the Russians? I don't care. It's my instinct. I am not a fan of Putin. It's my instinct that said they did it, and that they were, at least they didn't hit a nuclear plant where they could blow it up. It seemed to me a demonstration hit, saying, look, you people think you're safe from nuclear war. A drone can hit any nuclear plant at any time and turn it into another Chernobyl or worse. So that was the point of the piece. I got these long, detailed responses saying why they thought it was a false flag, and that actually the Ukrainians did it to sabotage the peace talks. Okay, you can have that discussion. It's a whole other topic. The point of the piece was, look, nuclear power is vulnerable, and God help us if a drone hits the actual reactor and causes another catastrophe. So, Brian Blakey, I don't know, is this what you wanted to talk about, Brian, or did you have another topic?
Well, maybe I should hold my comments until you get to the grassroots.
Yes, please. You'll come in and we'll get that. Anybody want to comment about the nuclear issue?
Well, let me just say this.
Okay.
I really appreciate the insight and the take that you just shared with us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm glad you did. Mickey, and then we'll go to Brian. Where did Mr. Gale go? I just saw, oh, there you are. Let's call on you next because after Mickey, because you are an environmentalist and you're with BAI, and it's great to see you, by the way. You win the prize today, by the way, for best beard. So congratulations on that. Mickey, go ahead, and then we'll go to Mr. Gale.
I know we haven't discussed our election integrity in any detail today, but I wanted to remind everybody that we have huge problems in all of our states because many of them use Dominion voting scanners, and many of them are being directed and lobbied to purchase the new ESS scanners, which can be, and Ray Lutz came up with those wonderful articles about they are definitely hackable. Yes. And so we have too many crises and urgent things that can throw us into an abyss, but we've got to really give that information out, and we're very time sensitive because if we don't get the legislatures to direct hand-marked ballots have to be used, we're going to end up, it doesn't matter how many billions we spend to try and get people elected, they're going to undo it. They need 15 minutes and a USB port to undo. And so, we're killing ourselves to try and do it. We're still operating in 1990s. And you just saw less than 30 days, Trump and Musk and the Muskrats have upended our whole system of government. So,
right. Well, and also they have now all our Social Security and Medicare data. How is that going to play into the next election? In the last election, Musk ran this ridiculous lottery, and we know he used it to gather data to flip the voting machine. So, that's the reality. Thank you for raising that. Very important. Ken Gale, you are with ecoradio.org at BAI, WBAI in New York, a Pacific affiliate. And, we just had this drone hit on a nuclear plant, which clearly means, they hit the one sarcophagus protecting a reactor, which is what did blow up. And then now we got somebody wanted us to think about what drones can do to nuclear plants. And you've got this geoengineering, atmospheric tempering, all that stuff. Tell us what you're about at Eco Radio.
Yeah, that was the last show we did. I was on geoengineering, which scares the bejeebers out of me. I think there's been a very cavalier attitude of the health effects of radiation on people by corporations, by governments, by corporate media, and it's been going on for years. Whether they're setting us up for a nuclear war, whether they're setting us up for more nuclear power plants, I can't say, but this cavalier attitude has been very, very persistent. And I'm the author of Chernobyl on the Hudson also. And Ecologic, we have a collective, and two of the collective members are on every week with me, and they're also on this call, Donna Stein and Sally Gellert, and couldn't do the show without them. Their addition has made the show better. And
can people get the show online? Do you have?
Oh yeah. Everything on WBAI FM is live streamed, so they can get every show. We have a link to BAI.org's live stream on our website, or you can just go to WBAI.org and there's you can click on listen live, so you can hear any show on BAI as it happens. They're also archived if the equipment's working right. But you can hear the show afterwards. What we do on our website, we have a description of the contents of every show, what the subject and what it's about, who the guests are, so that you can decide if you're just new to the website, which of these dozens of shows should I listen to next?
Well, listen, Ken, we want to put together an eco network where we line up the many environmental shows, both on and off Pacifica. We've had 3 at KPFK. I think there's 1 or 2 at KPFA, and we want to have a a resource where people can go through the Pacifica portal and online to be able to hear all these shows in an organized fashion. So, Ken, I hope you'll join our organizing effort for the Eco Broadcast Network.
I love hearing that. And we work with Charlie Olson of Environment TV, and
okay.
That's his big wish, is to have all the shows, TV and radio, linked up, so including podcasts, so that there's 24 hours of environmental programming. So
yes, and we can do it also with Progressive Radio Network. These podcast gatherings, I like to call them, are rebroadcast Thursday night in New York on Gary Null's PRN network. So that's part of the play as well. Marjorie, let me unmute you here. And you said you got two other people with you, Ken, from the show. If they want to show up, that's great. I'm trying to unmute you, Marjorie.
Okay,
there
thank you.
Go
I
ahead,
just
Marjorie.
wanted to say that they're bringing more plutonium into Livermore, and they're not making it so that there's a public hearing where everyone can go and speak. They just had a little online thing out there, but they're not giving the people in the area, good opportunity to know about this. It's this part of this making all these new plutonium pits for the new whole stage of nuclear weapons. It's all a part of the same old, and it's just people need to be aware.
And Marjorie, who is doing that?
Well, the Department of Defense and Energy is bringing it into Livermore labs and stuff to do actual work there, and they just laid this on us just a week or two ago. That they're adding that to the work that they're doing on the Sentinel out there, which is to replace, the missiles. So anyway, this is all going on. They have enough money for this kind of thing, but not for
and plutonium is made by nuclear power plants.
Exactly.
It is.
All nuclear weapons have to have a nuclear power plant to have the plutonium.
They reprocess the waste from the nuclear power plants. That's one of the reasons they don't want to give up nuclear power plants, is that's how they get the plutonium for the weapons. And that's why we need more weapons at this time. It's hard to say.
We need any.
Also, we are going to have a big global shutdown of the bases and Travis Air Force Base this next Sunday. It's going to be global because we have almost 800 bases across the world that protecting us, right? And so at Travis, they are actually sending out those bombs that are going to Israel right now, and there's where the planes are going out of Travis Air Force Base, about an hour just to the east of the Bay Area here, for sending back deporting all the immigrants. So anyway, I just thought people might want to be aware and join us on Sunday at Air Force Base. We try to shut it down. And thank you,
Marjorie. If you would please put in the link so people can join in and help you.
Great.
Well, thank you
in the
thank
chat.
You very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Marjorie. You're wonderful.
Heidi, go ahead. You're unmuted.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for taking my call or answering my Zoom up.
You're new, so we're glad to have you.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to all of those people that are particularly involved with the anti-nuclear stuff. I have been crusading to really make sure that we solve our climate change solutions, and I don't think nuclear is a part of that. And I would like to, I'll put in the chat my link tree, which has a green energy economy proposal. But I wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of the people that are doing the anti-nuclear advocacy here. I was actually in Seattle at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center, where Anatoly Grushenko came, and he was one of the fighter pilots that are helicopter pilots that flew over and covered up the esophagus. And I went to go thank his widow at his funeral for doing
God. Wow.
for that. So this is kind of important to me to hear about this new news, and I'm very grateful for all the work that's being done about this. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you. And Donna Stein has put in the chat that ecoradio.org for Ken Gale and the show at BAI, and we will be tying it all together. Myra Reeson is one of those who's been working on this, and to have especially an April 22nd Earth Day Eco Marathon broadcast. Ken, you definitely need to be a part of that, you and Donna Stein. Go ahead, Myra.
Yeah, I actually wanted to keep Marjorie spotlighted here because I'm interested in this development that you're talking about the plutonium pits for nuclear weapons. Now they're now proposing that they be manufactured at Lawrence Livermore Labs in the Bay Area. Is that correct? No, you're muted, Marjorie. Let's unmute you. Hold on. Try to unmute now.
Okay.
There. So they're making pits at.
Hold on. Let's unmute her.
They used to do that at Pantex. I'm trying to get her unmuted.
No, it was not at Pantex. It was at Rocky Flats.
Oh, Rocky Flats, right.
Hold on just a second, and let's unmute Marjorie one more time.
There you go.
Good. No, sure. There she is.
The pits are actually being manufactured in Savannah and in
Los Alamos National Labs.
Yes, those two places. But for some reason, that's why we couldn't understand. Tri-Valley Cares is the name of the organization.
Right, Mary Lee Kelly.
So you could get more information there since we don't have a lot of time today.
Okay.
But for some reason, they're linking this up to the Sentinel work that they're doing at Livermore. So I'm not an expert. I just know that they're going to bring plutonium in on the 5 and the 580, apparently from somewhere in Southern California. They're going to put it on the roads again,
Oh my goodness.
Yes, all that radioactive material. I mean, that's just incredible.
Okay, so thanks for clearing that up. Yes, we'll have to have Mary Leah Kelly from Tri-Valley.
Yes, perfect.
And Jackie Cavasso also.
Jackie would know.
Right, they are experts on this issue.
Yes.
The plutonium pits, which are about the size of a softball, were introduced into the nuclear weapons arsenal in order to make the atomic bombs thermonuclear bombs with the much more devastating. I mean, just extraordinarily more devastating.
Yes.
And they were manufactured at Rocky Flats in Colorado outside of Denver for many years. And the thing about plutonium is it just can't be contained. Wherever you put it, it eats its way to another place because it's radioactive. And over the years, the plutonium that would escape from the glove boxes at Rocky Flats, where they were manufacturing the plutonium pits, and the plutonium managed to get its way into the ventilation system, and there were horrible fires that spread plutonium all over the greater Denver area. And there was a public health official, I believe his name was Johnson at the time. Carl Johnson, yeah, who was just hounded for his work. He was, it was pretty awful, but he documented the fact that there were serious health impacts as a result of that plutonium contamination from the fires at Rocky Flats. And eventually they had to shut Rocky Flats. They decommissioned Rocky Flats. I actually had a chance, Harvey, to talk to security guards at Rocky Flats who said that they used to, for sport, shoot 3-headed rattlesnakes on the ground at Rocky Flats. And now they have decommissioned the plant. They've turned it into a national park, and they're encouraging people to have to go bike riding and hiking in the plutonium contaminated fields of Rocky Flats.
Right.
It's just extraordinary. So
and right there,
cancers are
right.
linked to this, and the waste from all this is 250,000 years, and where are we going to put it? We still don't have
Right.
depositories for the nuclear
Well,
waste.
it's actually forever. It's actually forever. 250,000 years is just 10 times the half-life.
Right.
But
Okay.
plutonium is definitely forever.
One thing we
thank
wanted
you
to
so
do.
much, everybody. I just want to remind everybody that Mimi Gurman and I are waiting to provide a way to solve a lot of these problems.
Right.
And thank you so much for highlighting once again the horrendous threat that we're seeing from nuclear power, which I call radioactive power, and then the city-killing weaponry.
I do want to throw in one thing, Mike. We're going to get to you in a second, and Mimi, we admire your patience. I did promise people they could nominate for president. If you want to put in the chat, but we'll go very quickly to take nominations next. I do want to mention that one thing that we demand of Robert Kennedy when he becomes a Secretary of Health is that they do a national survey at all the nuclear plants to look into the effects of radiation and the health effects. Robert Kennedy's uncle, Ted Kennedy, many decades ago, asked for a national epidemiological study of the health effects of radiation around the atomic reactors. It never happened. So Robert Kennedy, I've informed someone who works with him that that's what we're expecting. Let's hope it happens. Ken Gale, I hope you'll join our effort here to set up an environmental network. And please email me and Mila. We're both working on it. I'm going to skip over now real quick. We have Mickey, Mike, Robert, and Daniela, and Barbara Wimsatt. Let me call on Barbara Wimsatt. Then we're going to go. We're going to conduct our nominations real quick, and then we'll go to Mike and Mimi for their discussion on grassroots organizing. Okay, Barbara Wimsatt, go ahead, please.
So two things. One is also worrying.
You got to speak up, Barbara.
I said one other thing is worrying about nuclear.
Barbara can't hear you.
Oh dear. Am I muted?
No, you're good. But you speak directly into the mic and really talk loud.
And the mic is at the end, Barb, where those holes are.
Okay. Yeah. So one thing I was worried about is also nuclear power plants on the lakefront.
Yep.
20% of the world's fresh water. The other thing I worry about is our foreign policy. The one decent thing that Trump did is to end the war and hopefully end the war in Ukraine, which could have been a nuclear threat. And, we really have to look at our foreign policy.
We're getting a lot of noise from you, Barbara, but thank you. I think we got the message. Terrific and very
Barbara,
good points.
thank you for that. Can you, when you call back again, can you get a little clarity on your mic? We had a hard time hearing you. Okay, very quickly, we're going to go with Mike and Mimi. I just want to do a quick round here. If you can take 60 seconds, nominate. We are not going to do that. The hosts are not going to nominate people. But if you can nominate who you think should start to run for president, we'll give you 60 seconds, and then we'll move ahead. I know, Daniela, you had a hand real quick. Did you want to nominate someone?
Me unmute. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Governor Beshears of Kentucky could win, though I'd much rather have a woman like AOC. She could never win, or even Elizabeth Warren. But simply because I think Beshears, if he could, he would run and be the most likely to be able to win. He's very personable, clever, handsome, and he's a progressive like us in many ways.
I very strongly agree with you on that. I think that he would have been a great candidate. Okay, I'm not allowed to, whatever, but I thought he was actually should have been a front runner for the Democratic nomination. The other guy like him, a governor of a southern state, would have been Roy Cooper. But thank you. That's quite brilliant. We appreciate that. Mickey Leader, do you have a 1-minute nomination for president? And Robert Coplin and Don McCann. Mickey, are you unmuted? Yes. Mickey Leader. Okay, Robert Coplin, we'll come back to Mickey. Robert, did you want to make a nomination for president?
Our plants. We had one in Sacramento. We had to shut it down.
Robert.
No, that's good. That's okay.
Robert, we're going into a different direction now, but thanks, brother. If you have a quick...
He mentioned Rancho Seco. We did shut Rancho Seco. It's surrounded by solar panels now, and it's the only nuclear plant I ever went into. because it was shut. There you go. Okay. Don McCann, go ahead. Don.
Yes, Ro Canna from California, and I put in the chat a link to his op-ed in the New York Times last week, and my response to his op-ed. He should be considered. I won't say that he is the one, but he should be in the list.
Okay, and the reason we're doing this in part is that we want people to declare now, so that we don't, so that there's a focal point and people get the candidacies going for. But Ro Khanna, I know he's a great friend of PDA's. I think you know him, Mike. So maybe you can testify to Ro Khanna. Kevin Eisenstadt. Kevin, did you want to nominate somebody for president?
Yeah, I think Governor Tim Walz would have been a
Ah.
fantastic candidate as president if he hadn't been held back by Joe Biden and his consultants. He'd be my vote by a long shot.
Okay, very good.
I mean, look
Mickey
what he's done.
Leader. Mickey, are you there?
Can you?
Yeah,
hear me?
yeah, good. We're having
I'm
trouble.
unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
we can, Mickey.
Go ahead.
All right, I can hear you guys, and I wasn't sure you could hear me. Okay, on the point of nuclear power plants, a couple of weeks ago, I don't remember which PDA meeting, but they all were talking about Gavin Newsom supporting the reopening of the nuclear power plant. I believe it was in Arizona.
No,
and
it's at
having
Diablo
California
Canyon.
be-
Mickey, we've been all over that, and you're absolutely right. Gavin
I
Newsom
just
has
wanted to bring
yeah.
our connecting those dots, and why would he do that? That's so goddamn stupid.
We've been all over it, Mickey.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you so
we're
much.
trying we're trying to
possibly-
figure that out ourselves. If you can give us an answer, that would be great. Thank you for that, Mickey. Thank you. David Antos. Oh wait, I gotta unmute you here. I am going to break the rule. That, by the way, I am going to nominate LeBron James. He's not part of any tickets, Democrat or Republican, so it's nonpartisan. But any guy that can score 42 points at the age of 40, he's my guy. So there you go.
Right.
Okay, David Antos.
I've got two people. Delia Ramirez is my U.S. representative in Chicago. She's great. She's very responsive. She's a wonderful progressive. And for 10 years from now, Nabila Sayed is a state representative from the 51st District in Illinois and is simply the most impressive political person I have ever met or have ever known anything about even. But the problem is she's 25 years old. So in 10 years, remember the name, Nabila Sayed, Nabela Sayed, Syed. That's it.
Thank you. Since you mentioned Illinois, I'm going to make a prediction. One of the candidates, major candidates for president, will be the governor of Illinois, who he's actually a billionaire. What's his name? Does anybody remember his name? He's just Pritzker, yes. He just had a press conference to rename Lake Michigan Lake Illinois, and to predict that Illinois was going to take over Green Bay. I thought anybody with that kind of sense of humor is going to wind up being a presidential candidate. I'm not endorsing him. I'm predicting Brian Blakely, and then Barbara Harrison, Lynn Feinerman, and then Mila.
So for me,
just go, brother.
My number one choice is Jamie Raskin, and I like the nomination of the governor of Kentucky as well.
Andy Beshears. Yes. Okay, thank you much. Barbara Harrison, Lynn Feinerman, and Mila Reason. Barbara? Oh, you're not muted. You're unmuted. Yes. Go.
I was wondering if I could get more information about your environmental network.
Absolutely. Will you write me directly? Solartopia.
Wait. I'm in the hospital, so give me a minute.
It's easy to remember. Solartopia at Gmail. Come back and I'll give it to you again. Lynn, Mila, and then Heidi.
Hi. What I really would like to know, I mean, I'm not trying to jump on anything or anybody, but and I am an observant Jew, not a religious whack job. But does this community think that this will ever let a Jew be president? Jamie Raskin is Jewish, and a lot of people have come out for him, and I like him very much. But I'm really concerned about that.
Thanks, Lynn. Very good point.
So is Pritzker and so is Bernie, by the way. So,
Right.
there we go. And Kamala is married to a Jew, so close enough. That's a good question. I wonder myself. Do you think, Mike, that you could get Jamie to convert to Catholicism?
That might be a tough thing to do, but maybe he could convert to that techno religion that all these tech bros are worshiping, where they worship AI or something.
Right. Marla, I think you were next, and then
Bernie would have been elected. He's Jewish, no doubt about it. If they hadn't stopped him, so I think we can put that to rest. And Harvey, if you can nominate LeBron, I'm going to nominate Kendrick Lamar, and he's a very impressive young man, and also AOC and Jamie Raskin, absolutely.
Well, if Kendrick Lamar runs, should he have Taylor Swift as his running mate? Just a question. I'm just asking. Thank you, Myla. Sally G. I don't think we've heard from you. Sally G. Then Mickey. Then Ruth.
Co-host of Ecologic here. How about Elizabeth Warren?
She's been mentioned, absolutely. But the point is, these people have to start their campaigns now.
Sure, absolutely. We saw what Trump did last time. Start right away and don't stop.
There you go. He's never stopped. Mickey Leader, Ruth Strauss, and then Heidi. And then we're going to turn it over to Mike and Mimi. Ruth?
It's Mickey.
Mickey. I'm sorry, then Ruth.
No. Okay.
Hi, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go right ahead, Mickey. Thank you.
You're welcome. I just wanted, I'm going to be a never-ending bell tolling. Get all these people that you bring wonderful guests and information onto podcasts with Midas. They've got millions that listen to them. And, they're looking for things to say and do. And for God's sake, the voting issue, with the ballots being able to be manipulated, try to get them on as soon as possible. And everything else, everything you say is so important. We don't have enough time to take care of it. We need hundreds, if not thousands of people doing what you do.
Thank you. Real quick, Sluggo.
Thank you, Mickey.
Mickey suggests that we get on these different YouTube channels and various other outlets. Sluggo, are you willing to go on these channels if they all have us?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Who else? Who are you asking?
Yeah, Sluggo. So
Sluggo. Him. Yeah, absolutely.
That guy.
Well, all our shows are not they're not copywritten, so any YouTuber can take parts of our shows and share them. I mean, we've done 200 shows. I'm sure they can find something in them they can share.
Steve, you're absolutely right.
Commons license is free. They can take whatever they want instead of the standard YouTube license. And this is what I've been trying to push across all the networks and get everybody to do YouTube, so we can share all our knowledge together as part of the Echo Broadcasting.
And the key thing here is don't suggest to us that we get on these shows. We'd love to, but it's not up to us. Tell the shows that you watch that they need to either cover what we've done, like Steve says, or invite us on. We can't invite ourselves on. So please don't, expect us to be able to make that happen. We've got to, put the pressure on these bigger shows to incorporate what we're doing. Love the idea. It's just that you're asking the wrong people.
I watch it a lot. I watch it a lot, and they keep saying, if you want to give us your information, we'd love to have you. And if you know people, let us know about them.
Well, Mickey, that's just what I'm saying. Let them know about us. Does that make sense?
Yes, but there are other people who, on this call, who might also be listening. They should do the same thing.
100%. That's why it's such a great idea. But just do it in a way that it will actually work. And that's all I'm saying. So thank you for bringing that up. It's a great suggestion. Thank you, Stephen, for explaining that we have a wealth of information that anybody can use. It's a Creative Commons license. So again, thanks that. And so what Mickey is nominating is more people getting on podcasts for president. And I think that'd be great.
Great. Okay, we got two doctors, and then we're going to go to Heidi, and then Mike, we can jump to your and Mimi and the grassroots. We'll have about 20 minutes left. Ruth, Dr. Ruth, and then Dr. Nancy.
That's a paradox.
Okay. I am seconding on Jamie Raskin. He has been politically wonderful for years. He's a constitutional lawyer, which clearly our Constitution is being, shredded right now. And on top of that, being, a wonderful person, he has a wife who is an economic whiz and probably should have been, nominated to head some federal agency, but was passed over with the Biden administration. But she's brilliant. And quite honestly, I have a soft heart here about the fact that he tragically lost his son. And I think it would be a good place to fill a big hole. So thank you.
Okay. Ruth, thank you for that. Dr. Nancy?
I would put in for Jamie Raskin as well. For all the reasons, I think there are a lot of good suggestions, but my big issue is I really wish people would get off of this identity politics. I agree with Mila that Bernie proved that it doesn't really work. And the one good thing about Kamala is she didn't run on identity politics, but everyone else did. And I think that's one little thing that helped bring her down. And I think identity politics should be something of the past, and it shouldn't be an issue. I don't care what color, what sex they are. I want a good president.
Well, that would be a change. Okay. John Hayes, you've not spoken, and we'll go to Heidi.
Yeah, I already put it in the chat, but I think Jon Stewart could actually be a feasible candidate because he's very popular. He's funny. He's on our side. And yeah, he's a celebrity, and that's unfortunately what a lot of people go for. And Kyle Kalinske, who is a YouTuber I like a lot, he's the one who pointed him out as a choice. So I agree with him on that.
And who does your cat support?
What's that?
Who does your cat support?
Oh, my cat. He's supporting my shoulder right now.
There you go.
Oh,
I'm going to be a president.
Very good. Great to have you with us. Heidi, go ahead, Heidi.
Yeah. AOC, because she came out of Standing Rock and she really knows her it from Inola in terms of environmental issues. And I also like Jamie Raskin because I think he's got a really great heart, and I think he really knows his constitutional stuff. I would also like to bring in Ayanna Pressley. She's the congresswoman from Massachusetts.
Ayanna Pressley, yeah, she's like the Cambridge area.
Okay. Well, I met her when she was a scheduler for John Kerry, and she was just had this phenomenal energy about her, even back then. And I could tell that she was going places. And I think that she really is taking the bull by the horns with a lot of the recent issues in terms of what she's been saying. And I think she would be somebody that needs to be watched. And I can't wait to vote for Amanda Gorman for her when she gets to run for president.
Okay. All right. I think we've got the nominations. The point now is that everybody should contact these people that have been nominated and tell them to get going and declare now, because now is the time. And we can't, Trump never stopped running. And it's critical that we have some candidates who the media can go to at least talk about from another perspective. Thank you, everybody. We can do this again. It's fun. Now we got Mimi Gurman and Mike Hersh to take us into the realm of local organizing. Mimi, it's 3:45. We got 91 people still with us. It's all yours. Go for it.
Okay, Mike, you still around? Hersh? You're still muted, Mike.
I am still around. I unmuted myself and somebody helpfully remuted me. But
okay.
And Dr. Nancy wants to say something about the plastic straw issue, so we'll get to her as well.
And Donna Stein, I want to say hi to you. Welcome from WBAI. Good to see you. Okay, go ahead, Mike and Mimi. It's all yours now. We're gonna talk. You got to talk. Well, go ahead. Take over.
Okay, we're just going to touch on this for a couple minutes because Mike and I would really like to keep going on this particular discussion, maybe next week if that works out. And what we've been talking about is organizing in micro communities to give us all something that is incredibly tangible to do to get the word out about whatever it is that our micro community needs to be talking about, which might be different from somebody else's micro community. So how does this work and what is it? For me, I've been doing a lot of research over the last 3 weeks, and Lynn Feinerman, if you want to jump in too, feel free to. Studying what the women of Rojava have been doing and what their politics are among Kurdish women in northern Syria. And what they're doing would be looked at as absolutely radical in America, because what they're doing is they have ramped what democracy looks like. And what democracy looks like is the absolute end of patriarchy, where women are part of helping men to lose their patriarchal roots, where women are at the forefront of everything, including radical self-defense. And these are the same women who have been beating back for 20 years ISIS by not just by weapons, but by the weapon of education. And the very first thing that these women do is they bring whoever wants to come and be a part of what's called the YPJ, which are these women militants who fight ISIS for democracy, for women in Syria and across the world. What they do first is do radical education. They teach each other history. How did we get here? How did Assad get here? How did women get here in a way that is so oppressed? Where did that come from? Because in order to know how to fix something, we have to know how we got there. So I've been doing this research on what they're talking about and what they're actually doing, and saying, wait a minute, we need to get refocused here. We're so focused on memeing Trump and yelling and the chaos of it all, which I totally get, but we're not taking this as an opportunity to do something that is far more real and realistic and beneficial for our micro communities. What is that? For me, when I'm down in the desert, which is where I am now, my micro community are the 12 people that live down here. That's my community. A lot of those people are Trumpers. But all of these people, because we've gotten to know each other, all of these people need each other. So how do I work with the people down here to establish a trust among ourselves so that we can cohabitate in a way that is safe, that is garnering trust, that is honest, and that allows women to speak and be present. Now, if I'm in Portland, which is where I am part-time now, my micro community is my block, just my block. Like let's say there's 10 houses on my side of the street and 10 houses on the other side of the street, and that's one block. That's my micro community. It is not one house more than that. And what Mike and I have been talking about is putting together, and Lynn, I would love your help with this, is putting together a group of people where we create a system. It's a very simple system based on, a lot of it is to spread the word of what's going on in Rojava and what these women are doing to bring democracy to each of us, so that we don't depend on some president to give us our freedom, to give us our democracy. We take what is rightfully ours with the power that we have as women to create. So Mike and I have already begun the discussion. I'm continuing the discussion here. We're going to keep discussing this on what does it mean? And Mike and I and whoever else is going to join us in this are literally going to put together a packet that can be emailed to anyone that has discussions from the women of Rojava to us for how they do what they do, what they educate each other about, so that we can see if perhaps those things are important to us as well. But also in the packet, how do we take care of each other? How do we help foster community in a micro fashion? Because it's doable in a micro fashion. I've been growing food for people we took out all of our grass. We grow food. And no matter where we are, we're growing food. And no matter where we are, we give that food to people who might need it. How do we help our one block do the same thing so that they aren't dependent on my house for their food? They can get less dependent upon a store because we help them figure out, for instance, how to grow their own food. And we're there digging that soil with them. These are just examples in a very, very short time frame that we have just for the end of this particular episode of the show. But that's what Mike and I have been talking about, and Lynn and I have been sort of just touching base with, because she has a direct investment with knowing what's going on in Rojava as well. And I am telling you, it is inspiring. And what do we all need now? We need inspiration. Some of the things that Eric was talking about, it's Eric, right, who was on talking about Social Security?
Yes.
Was that, yeah. One of the things he was saying is we need to get the word out. Well, how do I get the word out? I or you get the word out. What better way is there to get the word out on anything that is going on than in our micro community? And if we all start to create these micro communities and take responsibility for our space, meaning, let's say 20 houses or whatever it is, wherever you live, the importance of that is that those take place all over the place. Back to Rojava. How did Rojava secure itself as a village? And how did Kobani, another village in northern Syria, secure itself? They had micro groups of people who all learned their history and educated themselves about how to do these things. And on top of it, they literally blew out ISIS. So kudos for that. Okay, I'm done with my spiel. We're going to continue this. Lynn, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really, I love Rojava, and I love Jinwar, which is the main village in Rojava. And Jinwar is composed of many, many women who left their system. They left the system that they were being oppressed by, mainly with a lot of religious jargon. And, we look back on how much the present resident of the White House came down on Kamala. There's something wrong with Kamala. I don't know what it is, but there's something wrong with her. This is precisely the way that you make a circus out of deep, especially white male, but male rejection of and response to women through religion. We're looking at the retaking of a kind of male privilege through Christianity in this nation, okay? And the women in Jinwar, backed up by Rojava, backed up by the government of Rojava, have separated themselves from that. And what they are doing is precisely what Mimi has described. They are in tight circles that train them for everything and that try to help them to not militarize themselves, but to understand that they are capable of defending themselves and of spurning attacks, literal physical attacks. And they have done so any number of times. Mimi has also tuned into that. And for me, it's reminiscent of the kind of work that was being done when Jean Shinoda Bolen wrote her book, The Millionth Circle. And she focused on use of small groups of women. She wanted to do it through the UN, but was blocked there. So I would say, based on the inspiration of Rojava and of Jinwar, let's revisit that, because Jean's idea was, that the millionth circle was like the 100th monkey. You created enough circles around the world in your own communities that are facilitated by and kept in a presence by women, and you have a tipping point suddenly. I would just say that it's really a remarkable thing to hear the testimonies of women who live in Jinwar, which is an all-women's village and raises all their own food and has built their own homes. They've done everything there. I'll put the link to the program that Women Rising Radio did, which features them and gives you a sense of, through their own voices of who they are and why they're there. Thank you, Mimi.
Thanks, Lynn. And Mike, if it's cool, I just want to talk about those podcasts to give people a place to, kind of latch on.
Sure, but real quick, just for a little context, these are Kurdish women. And
yes,
no,
they're not all.
No, they're not. They're from all over the world. There are actually women living there from Italy and from I think another one of Czechoslovakia. But many of them are Syrian and Kurdish women.
One of the most remarkable things that
very quickly, Mimi, we're at the top of the hour, but we're going to keep going. So we'll go to 4:20. Okay, go ahead.
One of the things that I learned that really blew my mind wide open was that there's an understanding that there are, so Syria is next to Iran, Iraq, and Turkey. That's the neighborhood of countries. And there are different languages and different cultures. And what the women of Rojava put together in their philosophy of living and lifting each other up is that all of the languages that are spoken need to be understood by everybody. And so in the schools, which the women revamped, because the old school system was you could only learn Arabic, women weren't even allowed to go. And this is just 20 years ago. So all of this has changed. And now in a schoolroom, you have in one class of whatever that class is, everybody is being taught whatever that subject is in multiple languages so that everybody can understand each other and no one has to let go of their culture or their language in order to understand somebody else. The idea is we all need to understand each other. So that was incredibly illuminating. But one of the podcasts that I found to be most informative, this is how I got in, and I highly recommend this. It's called I'll post it in a second. The Women's War, and it's called The Women's War. And it is by Robert Evans, who I know. He is a war journalist, independent war journalist. I've met him numerous times in Portland when we were fighting fascists on the streets. He came up to be a part of that because he knew that that was going to be the hub in Portland, getting all of this fascism going, which is now in the White House. So Robert Evans did an 8-part series, and it's sort of he takes you with him. He heard about Rojava the same way that I heard about Rojava and said, wait a minute, this sounds incredible. I want to go. And he went and he spoke to the people. And so that's a great place to start. And Harvey, I see your message about, we'll end at 4:20. So this is the concept. We're going to be putting a packet together for everybody. We're going to put together question and answers that you probably will have. An education part of that, where you can go to learn more about this. We're going to have people from Rojava. That's one of the things we're working on, to speak to us directly as a recording so that we can put that in there. And then all kinds of ideas to get you going on how to start a micro community. And if we can get micro communities going, we are going to, in the process, raise the voices of women, and in the process, silence the voices of the patriarchy. And in the process, we're going to start to learn who our neighbors are. And that is where it's at, because we all know how many people on our block we don't know. Why? Why don't we know them? What happens when, Musk and Trump start sending in the militias to various neighborhoods? How do we do self-defense? What kind of self-defense do we want? Everybody's going to feel differently about it. So talk about it, figure it out. as a block. I've taken up far too much time. Lynn and Mike, if you want to talk more, go ahead. Oh, Mike, you're muted.
Yeah, well, as a person who is assigned male at birth, I think it's incumbent on me to talk about how we've had an existential threat from people who have attacked the feminine, whether they've attacked Mother Earth or Mother Nature, or attacked things that are stereotypically or typically seen as feminine, whether it's compassion and nurturing and care for each other, even expression of emotions that are seen as unmanly, the bullying, the whole rising manosphere and the crypto bros, and just this toxic, fragile masculinity and the ridiculous overcompensation and all these bizarre manifestations of cruelty as a sign of strength. Well, we all know that women are the strongest. Women are the ones who have to go through childbirth. Women are the ones who have to put up with everything. And on top of it all, women, femininity, and all these things that are dumped on by the toxic masculinity of the patriarchy are the civilizing impact on human beings. And we would not exist as a species but for these influences. And they're not just of women, and they're not just feminine. They're human, but they've been characterized and categorized as weak and something that needs to be beaten out of men and subjugated when it comes to women. And we need to do better. Whether you see, just the very concept of the strong man, never hear about, we want a dictator called a strong woman. All throughout our language, it just shows the residue of this fragility, this toxicity, and this self-destructive and very dangerous hyper-masculinity, which is a caricature of humanity, and it's just horrendous. So I just want to underscore what Lynn has done with a woman-based podcast and radio show that she's done, and what Mimi is talking about. And what I'll hear from a lot of fellow assigned male at birth people is, well, not all men. Well, we know not all men. And if it doesn't apply to you, then you're not part of the problem, but you have to be part of the solution. And the solution is this: we need balance, we need checks and balances, we need to get some of these people who have severe daddy issues like Trump and Musk and these other people. We need to get them out of power and into therapy where they can work on their issues and leave the rest of us the hell alone. But it really comes down to this: all of these things that are stereotypically feminine belong to everybody and should be manifested by everyone, including nurturing each other, caring about each other, being evident with our emotions and not ashamed to express our emotions. The idea of boys don't cry is punitive and regressive, and we need to move forward. And as so many of these movements, we need to rely on women. Whether Rosa Parks led reluctant Martin Luther King into civil rights advocacy. Harriet Tubman led countless people into freedom when she had no access to education and no advantages. She was a tiny woman, but with a gigantic heart and all the courage in the world. We need to, as assigned male at birth people, sit back and work on ourselves, work on each other, recognize the horrendous abuses of the patriarchy, understand that unless we do something about it, we are contributing to it. And not all women are innocent. There are a lot of patriarchal trad wife women, a bunch of them in the Trump administration, who are doing all they can to pull the ladder up behind them and to sabotage equality. We need equality. We need fairness. We need inclusion. We need to listen to everybody's contribution and encourage everybody to get involved. And I'll just close with this. If these incredibly courageous women can do what they're doing in a war zone under constant threat from ISIS, then what's our excuse not to do every bit as much as they're doing here at home?
Bravo, beautifully said.
Thanks,
Blakely and Murtaza have hands up.
May I say one other?
Go ahead, Lynn. Yes.
One more thing. I think that we are being bombarded by the shall we say Opus Dei love bombing that Gareth Gore talks about in that book that he wrote called Opus, and I highly recommend that everybody read it, because what's going on there is a classic extreme white male Christian nationalist movement that exploits women and girls incredibly. And, has anybody else noticed how many times Musk trots out his kids, and how many times we have to see that he's got like 3 or 4 wives or women with whom he's had 3 or 4 kids each? Does that, that kind of subliminal propaganda for a certain kind of lifestyle and life structure is very, very powerful, because it's on your Yahoo feed, it's everywhere. And so I suggest that we look at how we want to counter this with this media bombing that we're getting every day, with indoctrination as to who these guys are and what they're doing with their lives and everybody else's money.
Lynn, I see what you just said as part of the propaganda of oppression, because in order for them to do what they're doing, they have to have us feeling the way that we feel in general right now, which is all of that chaos that I first started talking about. What do? We're just spinning. We have ideas like from Eric, hey, we really need to get out there and do this. Well, how do we get other people to get out there? Again, back to the micro communities and fighting back on this propaganda of oppression, which is exactly what it is. It's to make us feel like crap and keep us here in this immobilized state. And all I'm saying is we don't have to stay here in this immobilized state, in fear, in all of these things. We can think about radical self-determination and radical self-defense as a means to communicate with each other, by coming together to decrease our level of fear, to bring everything down a notch and get things done.
Mimi, if you could you share your experiences with Nazi hunting in your own neck of the woods?
Sure. As I said, I have been in Portland for, 25 years, 30 years. And we were the ground zero point for how far Nazis and white supremacists could figure out they could go. And they sure did figure out how far they could go, which is anywhere they want. And they saw right away that the cops were going to protect them, because the cops are Nazis and white supremacists. Of course, like Mike was saying, not all men are bad. Well, I don't know that about cops. To me, they're probably all bad, but whatever. That's just me. You don't need to take that, take it with a grain of salt. But anyway, we found out in about 2015 where some of the white supremacists were working, and that's where they were working in Portland and where they were working in Vancouver, Washington, which is very close to Portland. And I said, they can't be here. So I went out and told some people, I'm going to go out and get these guys fired. And I went out to their employment places, and I went into their employment places, and I had a picture of the person, had a name of the person. And I said, if this person isn't fired by the end of today, you will have massive protests in front of your front door tomorrow. So you have an option. You can fire this person who we know is a white supremacist, who is a white supremacist or a Nazi, whichever the case was. Anyway, we did this over a period of time, and they were fired. They were fired on that day. So there are ways to fight back. And but I think even more importantly, there's ways to fight back. But how do we rise up? And I think that the rising up is really important, and we have to educate ourselves with why we need to do that, and not be afraid of radical leftists like me, who really just want to figure out a way to love each other. because at the bottom of most radical leftists' heart, that's where you find if you hang out and you talk to them. So as this radical leftist, let's figure out how to love each other and let's explore this dynamic of micro organizing in micro communities, finding out what our physical neighbors need, if anything, and how we can work together, what their skills are that can help your skills to get your micro community really working and less dependent on others.
And the genius of what Mimi's talking about is that if we work with our neighbors, whether they're Trumpers or apathetic or whoever they are, we have shared concerns just because of our locality. We have shared macro concerns because of the insanity and the destructiveness that's going on the national and international levels. But we also have things like, parks that we need to keep clean and schools that we want to have vibrant and effective, and neighborhoods that we want to keep clean and safe, and services that we want to protect in our locality. And Mimi and I both happen to talk about turning front lawns, which are ridiculous wastes of time and energy, and turning them into vegetable garden. If people are talking about how the food prices are so high, well, if you can grow them yourself, you can keep it down. And Marla, no, I'm not explaining what Mimi just said. What I'm doing is recapitulating some of the things that Mimi and I talked about earlier today. And there is a movement to replace those wasteful, stupid front lawns with whatever grass is on there. Make it productive and create nutritional food.
Absolutely.
And Paul Newman makes his own sourdough bread. Way to go, Paul. Love sourdough bread. Dr. Bruce said, make sure everybody who's had their hands up gets a chance to speak. So yeah, let's do that.
We can continue on. We got 67 people still with us. Brian, Murtaza, and Mimi. Thank you both, Mimi and Mike. Stay with us, please. Brian, go ahead. Brian Blakey.
Okay. So, when I heard that the topic was going to be grassroots, I wasn't really familiar with what you all were going to say, but I like the idea of micro communities. I think one of the things that I would hope that you would consider is you talked about education, and I think we need to focus on educating ourselves about the responsibilities of and the opportunities of what it means to be a citizen. And it's stated in the first words of the Constitution, the preamble, we the people in order to form a more perfect union. But most people, that's about as far as they can remember. They don't remember established justice or ensure domestic tranquility or promote the general welfare. But what you said, Mimi, about carrying it on, you were talking about languages, taking that into the schools. So that's something that I think if you reflect on it, we've done a very poor job of educating our children about the responsibilities and the opportunities of what it means to be a citizen. So I just suggest that as a possible direction that you might want to go. And then when I just heard we were talking about grassroots, this is completely a tangent, I appreciate, but I just wanted to say that I think PDA should put together a list of all of the congressional seats where the election was at all close and identify those Congress people, and particularly Republican, and put the pressure on them. Putting the pressure on them. Find Democrats or people that are concerned about what's going on with Trump, because the problem that the Democrats have is we are in the minority, and to sit around and I personally don't agree with taking pot shots at Chuck Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries, because they are powerless. They're trying to deal with a situation in which they're powerless. So the only way we can turn that around is to focus on these Congress people that we might be able to influence because their elections were so close, and people are going to be pretty upset when, or at least a good portion of us are going to be pretty upset.
Freeze.
When we hear what the plans are for Social Security. So
thanks so much, Brian. No, good stuff. We've got
Murtaza and
Murtaza. We're asking you to unmute Murtaza. If you're there, please. There you go. Thank you, brother. Go ahead.
Sorry, I have a.
Hello. Go ahead. Sorry, we accidentally remuted
no
you.
problem.
Go ahead, brother.
I have a 1-year-old here in the background, so hence I was waiting on unmuting. I think it's a great idea. I think the mini communities. It's partly like we're kind of stuck with our dependence on the corporations because we don't depend on our local communities to provide the services and goods we need. And so, as things, depending on how things go, these local communities are going to be super critical to us. So I love the idea. One thing it reminded me of is something that we tried and where I used to live. We did something called neighbor to neighbor, and so this was only focusing on Dems. But we found a neighborhood lead, and we told them, here's your list of local Dems. You can go knock on their door, say hi, build a community, and they did. And our goal was not to go to the level that was brought up, which was great, but just kind of a minimum of when there's issues that come up in your neighborhood, let's the Democrats, let us be the avenue to raise them up and get change done for the community. That was kind of the initiative. So just something to think about. I think in this very partisan world, it might be nice starting with people that you think you are likely to be like-minded in terms of, non-Trumpers, and then maybe growing communities from there. Just some thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Mimi, and we'll keep going here. And then Eric.
Hi, Sluggo, you're calling on me, Mimi.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. I heard you on Flashpoints last week. You were really great on solar. We're continuing that fight here in California, Northern California. I'll tell you about that offline. But Mimi G, that was amazing what you said. And when you said you went to the white supremacists, sorry, I'm multitasking here a bit, folks, but now I can sit still. Was that law enforcement offices you went to where these white supremacists work, or was it any?
No. One was a realtor in my little village. I was like, wow. Oh no, you're not going to be here.
Yeah, hell no.
And another was in part of the outskirts of Portland at a camera shop. Another one was the manager of a really hyper over-the-top weed shop. There was another in Vancouver. I can't even remember where we got him fired from, but we were on a roll.
So cool. And where did you find the listing of these people?
Antifa.
Gotcha. Okay, that's so amazing. You're amazing, Mimi. I think that. And so Philly proud. Philly pride.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Eric.
Hi. Mimi, thank you for your wonderful presentation and for reminding us about many communities or teaching us. It speaks to something I don't have an answer for, but I feel very strongly about. Ultimately, we live with the folks who are supporting this idiocy in our nation. And it is depraved, it is horrible, it's full of lies, and yet somehow we have to live with folks. And I think the community outreach is a piece of it. But I'm wondering if you have other thoughts. Because in the end, these are human beings too, and they're down a strange road, but we've got to find the first thing we have to defend, fight, and build an agenda, but we also have to connect in good ways with people we disagree with.
The best thing about Trump and Musk is that they're giving us ample tools to go talk to our neighbors who we might not normally talk to because they're very much not like us. But everybody needs Social Security, everybody needs food. and everybody needs to be able to afford food, and everybody needs to be able to pay for their electric bill or whatever it is that they have, you know? And it's those topics that can so easily come up, especially with the barrage of hateful tactics that are coming from the government right now. And so in creating a letter, like the way that I kind of see it is, there's a letter and you send this letter out to your, let's say your 20 houses on your one block, you know, and say, hey, I've been thinking that this is a great time for us to come together. Let's talk. Doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, what your politics are. Let's come together and meet each other because we've all lived here for far too long and we don't know each other. Something like that, right? And then we get together and we start to build this trust that we can have as neighbors by talking about likenesses rather than differences and figuring out a way to communicate again. And I'm not sure if that is exactly your question, and I would love for you to clarify if it's not.
That's a good part of my question. Question relates to, you know, I have this feeling, look, out there in the world, if I fall down and need some help, I'm not a left-leaning activist. Anyone may come and help me up. And that humanity we need to connect to while we're still tough, but we need to have a vehicle for reaching out. I think the small neighborhood discussions, the various things that are doing, raising concern about Social Security. I may not have sounded like I'm very concerned at times, but I'm extremely concerned for lots of reasons. But I like the model. I like your approach.
Thank you.
Listen,
I would like to say something
very quickly,
about
Lynn, 1 second. That's Steve Caruso is signaling he has to go. He's our engineer. So,
Okay.
Lynn, if you can be the last and wrap it up, we still have 60 people with us. We'll continue this next week.
I just want to say,
be...
Lynn, before you go, I just wanted to mention we're going to do a deep dive on the women who are leading the liberation effort next week. And I have a friend of mine who's a spokesperson for the American Kurdish Information Association, and he's very much aware of what they're doing, as well as, and we forgot to mention, there's a political prisoner that we need to help get released who's involved in this movement as well.
Okay,
Lynn,
thank you.
Him. That's Apo. That's Ashkelon. So
that's right.
Go
Thank
ahead,
you,
Lynn.
Mimi.
And we'll let Steve go. So go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that for prior to the election, for about a year, I was with a small neighbor, and I have to say that it was habituated in one-upmanship, in male domination, in making people feel inadequate, in totally interrupting people. Like I would be talking and someone would, it was as if I didn't exist. They would, and it was very, very difficult to gain any kind of presence in the group, to gain any kind of equality, to gain any kind, and the Trump people in the group were the most smug and sure of all. I'm wondering how they feel now. You know, the people who went out and voted for him. I'm wondering what they're feeling about Trump and Musk.
Well, let's go around and let's share that next week. And Eric, if you can come back and talk to us more about this, that would be great. And make sure we have your contacts. And thank you, Steve Caruso, for keeping us going here. Who is that weird-looking guy? And you know, we still, after all this time, have 59 folks with us. So let's get together again next week. This couldn't have been better. Thank you, Steve Caruso. Thank you, Mike, Mimi, and no nukes, everybody. We'll see you in Solartopia, but we'll certainly see you here next week. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kingson, not Kingston, Kingson.
Kingson, yeah. All right, Mimi, thank you. All you new folks, thank you. Please come back next week, okay? No nukes, everybody. We'll see you in a week.
We'll write you a note to get out of work like President's Day.